Good day, everyone. Travis Kessner with TK Lighting Design. I want to take a minute here to show you a project I'm working on, and specifically, we'll dive into some art lighting and show you how to light a piece of artwork and how light can really affect how that piece looks and feels. As you can see here, I'll just break it down real quick for you. We have an entry at a house, and with lighting design, it's different than the way a lot of homes are lit. We do a technique called layering, where we layer in the light, and it's hard to tell if you're not trained in looking at it. But like just right here, client, they wanted to do this wooded bench, so I designed. And I'm not an architect at all, but I'm just giving them an idea of what it would feel like. I took the 3D modeling of the architect and imported it into Twinmotion to actually draw in the lights and give them the feel of how the lighting should be experienced. It's not going to be typically like exactly like this, but this helps to really give them an idea at least of what we're going for. Nice thing is to show you here real quick with Twinmotion, you can come over here to your objects. You can look up, you can go to vegetation, nature, you know, you can get detailed grass, put it in rocks. We won't put a rock in a living room, but just to show you, you can place objects fairly easily with Twinmotion, which is really nice. And they have lighting. You can come in here and put in different lights to get different effects. And as in lighting design, you're painting the walls with light. You're creating an experience with light, like an interior designer would come in and recommend where to hang things on the wall, different colors and finishes. You're collaborating with the interior designer and architect to create the feeling of a space with light. Like the architects are stage, lighting designers are lighting. They design the stage and you do the lighting. And how the lighting's done can change how everything looks and how everything feels. So again, with this, uh, well, you can see I got a dead tree. When it came in, it was huge, but I shrunk it down and create this little bench here. And then I put in just a couple little lights right there to show what it would be like if it was lit from underneath. And you can see it's just sitting there normally, but we're gonna do a couple in-ground lights to kind of have a little back glow behind it, which I think will be really cool. And then they have these beams here, and we're gonna do some LED linear tape light on top. And I just took an area light and plugged it in. You can see that helps eliminate the cave effect. Um, there's this decorative light here too, which really helps out with that. Um, but the decorative lights, sometimes you can use that for the ambient light if you have enough, but most of the time they're just for looks. They're for like that, wow. Either the client or the interior designer picks it out because it's more like material and finish. It's not so much function of light. Lighting designer, we would help locate those and select those, or if they want to tell us where they want to locate them, then we locate them in the plans. But here, I just put in a ring light, but they could put in a different fixture there. That's not really for uh, like adding additional light to the space, though it does a little bit. But as you can see, if that's off, we have this up light here to eliminate the effect, and the same thing over here. It's on every single one of these beams to make the room feel bright and big. Um, so I just want to show you that real quick. That is the technique in the industry that we call layering light. And there's ambient, accent, task. There's also sparkle. Sparkle can be like the decorative lights. That's where the client can express themselves, use light to tell a story or a very unique piece that's interesting. Ring light is pretty common, but again, I'm not really doing the decorative lighting. I just put it there to show it and locate it. And I'm more concerned with how the function of the rest of the lighting and how it's going to paint and fill the space with voluminous light and where we can accent certain areas with different light fixtures using different beam angles and how to hit those exactly. But today, I specifically wanted to talk about art and how to light art some different ways. So you can see here, there's this, I'll just show you this art piece right here. And what's that guy's name? Paul Kenton. Yes, Paul Kenton is the artist on this, and the client really likes them. I met with them, and they're saying that they want to hang a piece right here in the front end. So what I did was I went to Google, and we all love Google. Just search Paul Kenton. Yep, there he is, and then went to his page. And I'm not using his painting to sell anything or to selling it. I'm just using this to show the client what his artwork would look like there if they hung it right there. So it actually helps out the artist as well, um, and gives that client that idea of like, yes, I want that, because there's something very powerful with visualization that you can see it. And what I did is I saved the image, and I came over here to Twinmotion and looked up objects, and I looked up a picture frame, and I hung it right here. And typically, the frame would look something like, uh, let's see, it would look something like this when it was loaded up. And what it is I come up here to the material picker tool, and I select that object, which it was already selected. And you can come here to color and go to details, texture, open, and then there's his image that I saved. I open that. The image gets brought up there, but as you can see, let me do this here quick. As you can see, it doesn't look quite right. That's because the sizing is off, so we need to adjust it here in this material side column for the picking. And let's see, let me come down to, where was it? Color. You can come down here to UV, and there's rotation and scale. So to me, it looks really big. So we're going to scale it down. Okay. And then I see, oh, it's rotated the wrong ways. So we go 90, and that's upside down. So it need to go the other way. So we'll do 270. And there you go. It's rotated. We can scale it a little bit more to make sure it's fit just right. And that's what the art piece would look like right there if it was pinging the clients, if they decide to move forward with that one. So as far as the lighting goes, it's really great when you have artwork hanging on the wall, but if it's not lit, then it doesn't really draw people's attention. So you can put standard lighting there, which is fine, but I'll just show you guys the difference here too. Let me turn those off. Yeah, there you go. It's pretty dark and dim versus when you have some light on it. It really makes the color stand out. And here, as there's a lot to think about, so when we're layering in the lights, we have the up light for the beams to hit the ceilings. We have the decorative light here. You wouldn't want to, if you're locating either on your plans or in your visual rendering software, you don't want to put the light behind this, because then that's going to interfere with your task light that they're hitting the art. You're trying to get them down there to focus in on that art. And you want them backed up off the wall so they're not just down here and hitting the top of the painting either. So you got to try and centrally locate your decorative fixture and back those fixtures up enough so they can hit it just right. So that way they're not right here. I just did a technique where we placed two off to the side, and as you can see, and they're kind of each off to the side, and they're angled down, so they're hitting that piece of art from each angle. And then that would be the best option if you can. It's not like typical box store floodlights. It's usually like a nicer light with like 15 or 20-degree optics, if depending on your ceiling height, because as the the further the light has to travel, the more it spreads out linear wise. So if it's a higher ceiling, you want a tighter beam so you can focus in there and hit that artwork. And what we're using here specifically is a Ketra light. And Ketra is made by Luptron. And some people have the money to do it all throughout their house. But if it's a nicer home and they don't want to spend that much money on the lighting, but they have artwork, I would suggest Ketra because it's something that you can do some really cool things with. And we partner up with custom integrators because there's so much to do with lighting control. And if you're doing this type of lighting in your home where you have several layers in just one space, you're gonna want lighting control and you're gonna want a professional to install it right because the custom integrators, they will make it so everything can run off of like a single switch location with several buttons. You program scenes instead of just having 15 light switches on the wall, and then you got to press and to change each one and dim each one at each setting. It's a hassle. It's not fun for anyone. So I highly suggest to anyone that hires us or contracts other lighting designers that they work with a custom integrator or got to have some type of lighting control in with their house as well. Um, well, I'll show you right here. So let's see. This light is, I just took a basic light. It was ISO 8, so I took this one and put it in here. And that's what it typically looks like. That's the pattern that it does. You can see looking at this, if I put it up there, well, it's a little different. It's the spots because I adjusted it. And so when I loaded that one up in, I actually came down here to miscellaneous and they have an IS folder here. And I go open and I have the Ketra IS files that I went and got from Ketra's website. And a lot of manufacturers, quality lighting manufacturers, should have IES files that where they put it in a machine that measures out the light output and the beam angles and its performance. So you can actually take that electronic file and plug it in and see what it's going to do. Now it's very accurate in programs like Dialux or visual lighting software where you're doing foot candle readings and you're seeing numbers, but that doesn't really speak to the client. The client doesn't understand that. Probably a lot of lighting designers or architectural designers who love lighting know how to read those, but the client doesn't. And Twinmotion is one of the best programs I've found so far for showing what lighting can really look like and what it can do. Uh, The only problem is I did get the IS file and it doesn't adjust the exact beam. It doesn't adjust to the exact output either. So I had to come in and play with it because they have a little model here where you can adjust the intensity. You can change so the overall brightness. Obviously, that's too bright. We'll take it back down. You can adjust how far the beam is going. Like right now, it's very short versus long. You can adjust the cone angle, make it wider versus focused in. Um, so I'm at 33 degrees. Uh, and I actually got the Ketra, that probably should be 25. But theoretically, the only downfall with Twinmotion is it has one beam angle. And with like 90% of light fixtures, which I know is the same with Ketra, it has two beam angles and there's a center candle beam punch. And that's usually like how much light output. That's what they rate it at when they say 25 degrees. That's probably it's 1300 lumens rating. And then or probably like 90%, every light fixture is different. So there's like 1,000 lumens that's at 25 degrees. There's usually like a second light angle that's wider and it's less because of light spill from the fixture, unless it's incredibly controlled, um, which Lutron is, but usually that double effect is intentional. It's something that you would see kind of like over here in this IS. Yeah, that doesn't really show it very well. Let's see if we dim it down. Yeah, that one's still. Um, see if I can show you what I'm talking about here. Yeah, that one kind of has it. You can kind of see the double, how there's wider beam angle out here, and then there's a more narrow one there. Um, However, the only issue that's not very favorable with Twinmotion is it doesn't have two cone angles, one for me to adjust the inner versus the outer. Unreal Engine does, but they haven't yet to implement that in their program, Twinmotion for architectural design. And Unreal Engine is made for designing games, but you can still design architectural software in there. Getting off topic, but I can geek out about this stuff because it's pretty fun. So I'll talk about the lighting here. So art lighting specifically, we place the luminaire where we want it. We've talked about the layers of light. We talked about the beam angles, the IES files, where you can get that. The nice thing is about Ketra, specifically for art lighting, they're $1,000 a fixture. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But they have literally, I think, 10 million colors that they can do. They can do they're white, they can do from 1800 Kelvin all the way up to 10,000 Kelvin, and they can dim down to 0.01%. So it's almost nothing. Like you can't even see it. It's so it can, if the client has the money, they can do it throughout their whole house, or maybe a specific room that they want that look and effect on. And if the client wants to spend money on art, if they're spending like a $50,000 on an art piece, I think you'd want to light it right. And the cool thing is with color, with the lighting being color, we all learned back in elementary school the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And it depends on the wavelength of light, what color we see. Well, that wavelength hits the wall, or in this case, hits that art piece and bounces back, and it sends back different wave signals than what left the light. That's why we see the certain colors on the wall, because depending on the certain paint it was painted with, and the light that reflects back dictates the color that we see. So if you're using a poor light fixture without uh, all LEDs, or maybe they're just the manufacturer just used red and blue and they put a filament over it and to try and make it look natural white, and but you're not getting the actual wavelengths of light that are leaving the fixture, your artwork is not going to look the same as when you bought it off the shelf. It's not going to look the way the artist painted it when he painted it under quality light or out in natural daylight. So there's a difference between light fixtures. The cheap ones don't have good quality LED chips in it. Uh, the more expensive ones do. I mean, that's why they charge more, because they go through the rigorous testing and get the quality light so you actually can see the color. Um, but that's a whole art on itself. We could talk about that. Uh, what else? So color temperature, for those of you that don't know, what I'm talking about is there's considered white, but there's not just one kind of white when it comes to lighting. There's a huge range, a color temperature scale, and it really matches like the warm sunset when you get that warm light. That's like that 1800 Kelvin versus when the sun is up in the sky and it's its brightest. That's the uh, 10,000 Kelvin. And most light fixtures, with color tuning, that's what it's, excuse me, tunable white, that's what it's called, can do like 3000K up to 6000K. Ketra can do 1800 up to 10,000. And I'll just show you what that looks like here. So that's a warm light. That's like 1700 right there. And then versus if we start coming up in whiter light, you start seeing it. The blues start to become more visible and stand out. So the grays, and then we get up here to all the way up to 10,000. Let's see, it's taking me a second here, but we're up to 10,000. It looks very cool, crisp and clean. I kind of like that look. Excuse me. And then The other cool thing that you can do with Ketra is I said they have like 10 million different colors. Now this is not, mind you again, this is Twinmotion. This is not a color rendering program, but this just at least helps give the client an idea of what it might look like in the space. So say if they're having guests over, they want to make a certain color pop out. Um, so the same way, if there's what I was saying earlier about there need to be the same amount of quality light uh, uh, to hit that art to make it look the same. You can intentionally take away or add certain colors of light to adjust the color on the painting, which is really cool. And I'll just show you guys here. So you could dim it down, take it yellow. And boy, yeah, I feel like that makes the reds pop, the yellow pop. See, we come over here, orangish red. Yeah, kind of makes it look a little darker. Dark piece here. Red, it's kind of becomes saturated with red. You can add in a little bit more white light. Come there to magenta, kind of creates like a futuristic feeling almost in the city, I feel like. Then blue kind of accents the night, makes the night stand out, the night sky and the blue backgrounds. Just come over here to cyan. That cyan, I feel like that makes the yellows and the reds stand out. You'll notice there's a lot of theory on color out there, and you see this wheel right here. It's almost like the linear line I was talking about from the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, how it goes along in a line. You'll see this is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, uh, and cyan is in between green and blue. But and this is, yeah, magenta. There's a deep purple right there, but the deep purple and red create magenta. So it's a continuation, and I believe it's opponent color theory. There is, uh, if you have two light sources that are on the opposite end of this theoretical wheel, say like blue and yellow, and they were the same amount of color, it would create white. Our brain would perceive it as white. That's why white's in the middle here, because you have an even amount of color all around. It creates white. So then bring it back here. So if we're actually, if you think about if we're adding cyan mixture between green and blue, um, it's actually, we're adding more of it. So it's making the opposite color stand out, which I feel like I can see the yellows and the reds in that painting. So it makes a lot of sense. So the nice thing is with Ketra is you don't have to do a lot of research up front about picking the right light, making sure, oh, this client wants to make the reds pop, or even if it's retail, they want to make the blues pop and stand out. Uh, you can just get the Ketra light and program it in the field with the custom integrators and adjust it based on, your preference and what you see and like right then and there. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Want to show you guys that and give you a little idea of maybe create some inspiration for a project you're working on and give you some ideas for art lighting. If you have a project that you're working on and you actually need a lighting designer to come in and draw up drawings and give you some image renderings, that's what we do here. We would absolutely love to help out. And just for your information, we use SketchUp for drawing up our drawings, and we use Twinmotion. It's kind of for these visual renderings. And it's really nice to show the clients what it would feel like. You can even see my backdrop here. I use Twinmotion for that, for a project that we worked on uh, up in Sandpoint, Sagal, excuse me. But you can, it's kind of double the work, but it's a nice tool to, because I used to be like this verbal ninja explaining everything and how it's going to look, but this really shows the client how it's going to look and feel, and helps can really sell what you're working on or sell the project or the lighting if that's what you want to do. And it's very different than the other foot candle programs. And it's not 100% accurate like those foot candle programs are, but at least it gives you a good idea. And yeah. All right, I'll stop talking. You guys have a great day. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.